My name is Kim Rayo and I am the service manager for Proluxe. We're going to go over the troubleshooting for the SL1577. First we have here is the control board. This is the control. It will flash red LED when you turn it on, like that. It will say 5.23, and that's just telling you the revision of the microchip in the back of the control. The first thing you need to do when first starting to operate on the machine is hit the temp button and the up arrow, and that'll give you the temperature reading for the left and the right upper grills. Now this is zone 1 would be the lower platen, zone 2 is your upper left, and zone 3 is your upper right. So first you want to start by hitting the temp button and the up arrow, and right now it's not at the full temperature, so it's going to say low F. When it gets up to the full temperature, it'll give you a reading. For Tim Hortons, it's 525. It'll give you 525 and 525 because you're getting the two upper temperatures. For the lower temperature, you want to hit the temp button and the down arrow, and it'll give you just on the left side. It'll only give you just on the left side reading because this is one continuous element, as for the upper is one element and then another element here. Okay, let's talk about if the power button on the control is depressed and the machine does not turn on. One of the first things you're going to want to check is the fuse in the back. You have your fuse right here, right next to the transformer. First make sure your machine's plugged in. Yeah, and then after that you want to check to see if your fuse is blown. If your fuse isn't blown, then you want to check your transformer. Your transformer on your secondary side, check the voltages, and if you read 12 volts DC, that's going straight to your control board. So your control board's 12 volts DC. Here on your primary side, you're going to get 120 volts in if your machine's 120, and your 12 volt DC out. Your 12 volt DC will go straight to your control board. That's the only thing in this machine that will be DC. The rest is AC. Your relays, your sensors, even your transformer is AC. Only thing is DC is your controller, and that's 12 volt DC. Say your LED lights on the control is scrambled or giving you some weird code message that's not RELA, because RELA stands for relay, and PROB standing for probe. Now if it says anything other than those two, what you can try to do is leave your machine on, your controller on, and unplug it straight from the wall. You want to leave it unplugged for about 30 seconds to a minute. Plug it right back in and turn it on, and what that does is it resets the control. Now if you unplugged it and you reset it and it's still giving you those weird error messages, or it's scrambling, or half of it's not lit up, then you definitely want to go ahead and replace the control board. That's what's telling you is giving you the problem. Now inside here you'll see this right here, this black piece, that is your beeper. If your controller stopped beeping or it's intermittent, it's not loud enough, it sounds really weird, like it's underwater, it'll sound like an underwater sound. What you want to do is replace the whole control board. That your beeper has gone out or it is going out, and you'd have to make the call later within a week or two because it was about to go out. Always check, for water damage. That's a good indication that the beeper would sound. Now, if your controller says PROB, it'll flash on one side and it'll say, if you hit the temp button and the up arrow, one side will tell you PROB. If you hit the temp button and the down arrow, one side, the left side, well, if that says PROB, then it's nice that the control gives you and tells you which zone possibly you might need to change your sensor. If it's giving you a probe on the right side, that's telling you that you're upper right. So the left, and then this screen right here, the left, and then the right, zone 2, zone 3, down, zone 1, if it's giving you a probe reading on zone 1, then you need to check zone 1 in the back for your sensor to make sure that it's not broken. If it reads PROB, it means probe, not problem. If it gives you a relay, same thing. You want to go in the back and check for your relays. See, make sure that they're not out. Checking your sensors. Your sensors from the control board come here to the terminal block. They're numbered for you, 1, 2, 3, and then your 4. So obviously, zone 1 would be the bottom, zone 2 would be the upper left, and zone 3 will be your upper right. You want to check your sensors at a room temp. Probably, I would say around 70 degrees, you might get around 2,000 ohms. If it's under 2,000 ohms, that's a good indication that your sensor's not working. Anything above, if it goes higher, if it goes to 3,000, 4,000 degrees, that's because your machine is hot, and it's obviously going to read a lot higher. Sometimes you're in the situation where you can't cool down the machine and you walk into a restaurant and the machine's really hot. Usually it reads around, if it's up to temp around 500 degrees, it reads around 4,000. So check your two sensors, and if this one's way off, like 2,000 at 500 degrees, then you know that's the one that's not working right. Now, when you undo these to check the sensors, you have to unscrew each one and put your ohm meter on one and on the number 4 coming from the bottom platen. Whatever you do, be careful not to switch your wires. When you switch your wires, what that causes is when you hook the machine back up together, let's say you checked zone 2 and zone 3 for your sensor wires, and when you plug it all back together and it heats up, your zone 2 will read 450 degrees and your zone 3 will read maybe 590 degrees, and that's because your sensor wires are switched. It's calling for heat because it's not getting it. It thinks it's here, but it's heating here. So this one will overheat as this one will underheat. Definitely make sure that your sensor wires are not crossed, therefore it will cause that problem. Now, say you get a call where, your bottom element is not heating to temperature and the bottom's reading 423 as the top are reading 525. You definitely want to come to the back here and check your number 1 relay. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Your number 1 relay here. Now what you want to check your orange and yellow wire. These are coming from your control board, therefore it's going to read 12 volts DC. Now if you disconnect the 3, the orange, the brown, the gray, and the yellow, and you're getting 12 volts here, 12 volts here, and 12 volts here, then you know your control is good. Now that's how you check your control. There's really no other way you can check your control except from these wires here. Now if you're getting 12 volt DC, 12 volt DC, 12 volt DC, then, and say this is not heating correctly, the zone 2 and zone 3, you know it's your relays because you are getting the 12 volts there. This will be 120 volts, outputting 120 volts. You got your heater wires. If your platen is, say, it's not getting any heat, the first thing you're going to want to check is your relays. Make sure you're getting your 12 volts. Second thing you're going to want to check if it's not heating, I would check your control board. It could be your relays, your control board, and last but not least, your element inside. The elements are casted inside these plates here. And it is on rare occasions that they do happen to lose continuity. Now, they are lifetime warranty. So what you would need to do to get the correct reading from the element itself is you would have to take off the shroud by the screws on the top. You want to take off the shroud. If it's one of these, you want to take off the shroud by the screws, take out the insulation. You're going to see your heater wires. You can't check the platen for continuity based on these wires. A lot of times, I've taken apart the platen just to find that the wires are actually burnt off the element and that continuity is still there. It's still good. Now, you could check these first, I guess. You could check them for, they're probably about 35 ohms for here. You'd want to check for 35 ohms. You could check here, and if you're not getting the reading, then you definitely want to take it apart and check from the pins of the platen. They are soldered onto the pins. You want to hit directly the metal 2 pins that come out of the platen because that'll tell you if you're the real reading of the continuity. If it is giving you the correct readings through the heater wires, then you won't really need to take apart the entire thing to check it. It's making connection to those pins. Okay, so we have here's the arm. You always want to make sure that their E-clips are here and that this pin is nice and snug. In a restaurant setting, this does happen to come loose You know, often with grease and oils, it does get in there. When you lower the plot in here, it comes to about a 45-degree angle. It's very smooth, and then it'll go down to a 180. You know, you could barely touch it, and it'll lift right up. If it's having problems, if you're having problems adjusting it, it gets too tight, it's not going here, or say it's like this, it's not even, you definitely want to check your springs in the back. Now here's where the tension is. To create more tension, or to loosen some of the tension, we have here is this. These parts right here. Okay. We have the collars here. By adjusting these collars, you can adjust the tension of the springs. Make sure no springs are broken when you come back here, because that could be a possibility. And see here that the wires are crossed, they don't go straight down. So when you rewire, just be careful where you go to, and make sure that you rewire them correctly. We don't want any shorts or mishaps going on. We do have a video how to replace the springs. If you have any questions, give us a call. We can walk you through anything. And last but not least, let's go to the controller for the last time. As for Tim Hortons, you know it's 525 degrees. So say it reads 525 degrees on your controller, but when you cook a panini, the cheese isn't melting, or it's cooked too much, it's burnt, or you don't see grill lines, then you definitely want to go into the offset of the control and either make it hotter or colder depending on how many degrees difference it is here than what it's saying here. Hotter will be negative and colder will be in the positives. So we do have instructions for calibrating and offsetting. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. I can always walk you through it. And that's about it. If there's anything you need help with, you're welcome to call myself or Carrie, another technician that we have here at Proluxe. Our number is 1-800-624-6717. My extension is 129. Feel free to give us a call if you need any technical advice or help diagnosing any problem. Thank you.